Welcome, welcome to Hope and Healing at Home's first Facebook Live. Today we are going to go through the art therapy activity of soda. Some supplies that you're going to want to have on hand. Soda bottle or some kind of a jar, canning jar, something like that. Some scissors, some mailing tape or regular Scotch tape. Masking tape would work. Stick glue or regular glue might also be helpful. It depends on what materials you're going to use to create your personal soda. Colored paper, patterned paper, pens, pencils, crayons, colored pencils, markers, magazines, figurines, little toys or objects that can help you remember what SODA stands for. So it's an acronym, which means every letter in the word soda stands for something. We're going to start with S. S in soda stands for stop. Have any of you ever been in a really tense situation or walked into a room where you feel like there's a fight about to explode at any second? Well, that is when soda is going to come in handy, and the first thing you want to do is stop. To stand still, to stand like a tree, rooted to the ground, reminding yourself that you're safe, that you don't have to do anything right in this second, but you have time to think, to breathe. Some things that have worked for me and others in the past for stop. One, freeze. My teacher used to turn the lights off in the room and we'd all have to just freeze like statues. And it sort of was a game, but it worked really good. There were things that were happening in that moment that as kids we had no clue. No clue at all. When we freeze our activity, when we stop our thinking, that racing kind of thinking, we allow our body to calm down. We allow our thinking brain to come back in charge. So thank you, Mrs. Wilkes, first grade St. Peter's. So one thing that can be really helpful is to think that you're like a tree. So trees, they're rooted into the ground with an intense root system. They have super strong trunks that are secure. Animals make their homes in there. All sorts of great stuff about a tree. It's really nice to lean up against a tree and enjoy the shade of its branches in the summer. And the branches spread way out and have lots of leaves on them that are beautiful in the fall, for those of you who live in a climate where they change. But the great thing about trees is because they have all these different structures in them, they are strong and steady, but they also can sway with the breeze. And so hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff, yes, some of them will rip up some trees if they get super intense, but it's amazing what a tree can withstand. So if you think of tense situations and strong emotions like the wind that comes past us, if we are like a tree, we can stand still and strong even though our leaves and our branches get swayed back and forth. It doesn't mean that it moves us. So that's one thing. Taking a deep breath. A super deep breath. Some people call it belly breathing. The Navy SEALs use box breathing, which is you breathe in to 4 counts, you hold for 4 counts, you breathe out for 4 counts, and then you hold it out for 4 counts before you got it. You start breathing in for 4 counts, and this calms our entire system down so that we can think better. And an interesting piece of trivia, if anybody likes that, the world record right now for holding your breath is 24 minutes and a few extra seconds. So the activity for S, if you're thinking of this art therapy activity, what things can you create with pencils, pens, markers, paper that will help remind you what S stands for? S stands for stop. So one thing that you might put on there, maybe you create your own little stoplight. Maybe you draw a picture of a tree. Maybe you find an acorn outside. So I think today what I'm going to do to help remind myself what S stands for is I'm going to take my soda bottle and I'm going to put a sticker on here. And I don't know which, I'm just going to put it on here. There's my S. I'm also going to put on the back here like the ingredient label. I'm going to take some tape. And I wrote on here some reminders for myself. S stands for freezing, pausing, taking some breaths, and being like a tree. So I'm just going to roll up some Scotch tape and stick it on the back. This way I can move it if I need to later. And inside my jar, I'm going to put an acorn to remind me to be like a tree. I'm not going to put that in there. I just changed my mind on that. And I'm going to put my stoplights so I can remember that I can stop and pause. And now we move on to O, observation. So some things that I found laying around that kind of made me smile, that remind me of observation, is this set of painted rocks that I've had for a very long time. But all their little eyeballs reminded me, you know what? Observation is all about looking around us. Found it ironic, I got a card from my grandma in the mail, and inside was a bookmark with a magnifying glass on it, which reminded me of observe as well. That we want to look around, look at the details, look at the facts of a situation. Another thing that reminds me of observing is a tape measure. So with observing, we want to look at the facts, look at the conversation. Is the conversation about us? Is there a reason why we need to be engaged in that conversation, or to engage or participate in the situation that's going on that we just really aren't thrilled with, where the emotions are tense? Another part of observing is to start thinking about options. We have options about how we respond to this situation. You know, we can change our voice. We can choose to take a break. All sorts of different things. So in observation, we want to look at the facts about what's going on. And we also want to start thinking about what are our different options. One thing that has helped me and many other people with observing is to do some writing, to do some journaling. I'm going to put some paper out here to remind me of journaling. Some people like to fill out forms called a thinking report or a think sheet. It's prompts to get us thinking about what's going on. And they're also super handy. Observing can come in really handy right in the middle of S.O.D.A, in the middle of a tense situation. And it can also be super helpful later after the situation's done. So we can think back on the situation and take note of what worked and what didn't work, and maybe what we want to try next time. I'm gonna get my bottle here, and I'm gonna start attaching my O for observation. And you guys can do this any way you want. I'm just trying to do it quickly here for you. So for observe, I've got look at the facts, gain perspective, check in with your senses. Oh, that's one we haven't talked about yet. Part of observation is checking in with our five senses. We can check in with our emotions in a situation, and we can check in with our five senses. Feeling, looking, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. Those things help ground us. They help keep our logical brain engaged and in the driver's seat instead of our emotions just taking over. They help ground us so we start to feel safe again and give us time to move on to the next one. For observing, this troll, I really like her. She's kind of peppy and her eyes are big, so I'm going to stick her in there. All right, so we have the acorn to remind us to be like a tree. We have the stop sign, the stop lights, to remind us to stop. And that actually goes in with observe too, doesn't it? In yellow, we can think and look and proceed with caution. And then we have the troll for looking around, paying attention to what's going on, to looking for our options, which starts with an O as well, doesn't it? Options, observe and options. Then we move on to D. D is for deciding. Now that we've seen some options that we have in a situation, we can decide on what action we want to take. Do we need to take a break and ask for a pause in the conversation so we can go calm ourselves down? And is the action we need to take to just get out of the situation? If we don't need to be part of it, maybe we can just leave. Or could we change our tone of voice? Or could we go grab our soda bottle and think about what we need to do next? Sometimes changing our body language can be super helpful there. So let's see, for decide, I am gonna pick, and again, you can draw these things out. I just happen to have all these figurines on shelves at my office here, and I thought it would be quicker for this demonstration. I'm going to choose a dice. So in decide, we have decisions to make. We have options to look at. We always have a choice, and it's sort of a superpower, isn't it? That we can always make a choice in a situation. We don't have to respond or react to a situation the way we always have. We can try something new. So in decide, I'm going to put a dice in here, or a die in here, because it reminds me that I have options, and maybe I just roll it. Maybe I don't have to think through each one, and I just roll and decide what action I'm going to try taking in this situation to see if I get a decent outcome, an outcome that I like, and not just an escalation of an argument. So I'm going to put that in there. And put my ingredient list on here. So for decide, I wrote, consider the options and the outcomes, decide on an action. Can line that up pretty good. And in art therapy, it's not about perfection. It's just about creating something that will help us remember what we're trying to remind ourselves to do. And it's about expressing ourselves. So the last letter in S.O.D.A, A. Can anybody guess what that stands for? That stands for act. So once we've stopped, we've observed, we've looked for our options, and we've made a decision, now is the time to put it into action. This is when we're going to actually go grab our soda bottle or go get a drink of water, calm ourselves down. This is when we're going to actually change our voice or our body language and try out one of the things that we've already decided that we want to try. And for this time, I'm also going to stick in here as an option is a butterfly, because when I'm trying new things, sometimes I feel pretty tentative about them, and I want to ease into my new action and try to be gentle about it. So maybe that's all I need to put on here for action. And something I want to mention to you guys is as you're doing S.O.D.A, as you're testing it out, as you're trying new actions to respond to a situation in a way that maybe before you haven't responded, be patient with yourself. This is a learning process, and it's hard, it's uncomfortable at first because it's new. It's something that you haven't done before, and just keep trying. It will get easier as you form new habits and new ways of responding to tense situations. Once you have everything inside your jar to start with, and I guess you don't have to have that done first, but I have everything, something to remind me of each step. I guess I don't really have an action one, do I? Maybe the dice is kind of action for me, or the green dot in this jar is going to be, or in the soda bottle is going to be my reminder to act. I've got my ingredients on here. I've got my label. And again, be creative with your label. You can use collage images. You can draw your own personal label. You could print out on the computer a label that you like. Then I'm going to use my mailing tape, and you can also use self-laminating paper, the self-adhesive paper. You can use your mailing tape to sort of laminate, make it waterproof, and then also give your soda bottle that really nice plastic label that sodas have. These stickers are having a hard time sticking to the round bottle. We'll get it though. All right, so I've got my label on there. I'm gonna need to add a little more tape later. Cap it up. I can set it on a shelf. I can look at it whenever a tense emotion starts taking control of me. Even if I'm not in an argument with somebody, I can do this S.O.D.A, the stop, observe, decide, act, anytime an intense emotion is starting to kind of hijack my brain and take over. I don't know if anybody's watched Inside Out, but I did post a clip on here last week, week before, about how emotions kind of can take over our brain. And sometimes we need to get our thinking brain back engaged. And S.O.D.A can be really helpful, even if we're all by ourselves. It's also super helpful when we're with somebody else in a conversation. I came up with another one the other day with a canning jar. I found it a lot easier. I had a lot more options for putting things in this wide mouth instead of just the soda bottle. So things I wanted to put in here. For my S on this one, I decided to put this cool balloon with confetti in it to remind me to take a deep breath. I also had this sweater that had been made into a coaster to remind me to take care of myself in the stop moment and go get something soft and cuddly and remind myself that I'm safe. I don't have to make a quick decision. For observing the coffee cup or whatever, for tea, a drink of water, reminds me of that. Also, I found this heart, which reminds me about checking in with my different emotions, because sometimes those give us really good clues as to what's going on around us and how we can make a good decision of options. The measuring tape kind of cracked me up to remind me to look at the facts. Do I need to be in the situation? What's this situation actually about, so I can make a better decision? And then I have the small post-it note that I cut up to remind me to write things down, maybe not during the initial situation, but maybe after, to help me have more options for my decision phase. Because once I decide, and measuring tape's kind of good for decision, isn't it? It's about taking action. Then I can choose to make my action, and I want to make, like I said earlier, I like the butterfly because it reminds me to take a gentle action. I need to approach this new situation with gentleness. And then today I happened to be looking at the shelf and I came across a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, which is definitely going in this jar, because my gut response to conflict, to someone being upset, is to want to duck into my shell and be safe and just kind of get out of that situation. But with S.O.D.A, with observing, looking at my options, and then being able to make a choice, those are sort of like ninja skills. The more we observe, the more options we have, and the more intentional we can be with our action. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles definitely take action, don't they? I'm not doing this to remind me of using ninja skills in a violent way, but more of just being decisive and being secure and confident with my action, that I have the power to choose and I have the power to change a situation. Just one more example of what could be in your S.O.D.A. Thanks for watching, and I hope that if you decide to make your own personal S.O.D.A, you will post it here. Let us see the picture, or jot us a note about what you found helpful, what you put in your S.O.D.A, and what you did to try applying this to real life and how that worked out for you. So thanks again for tuning in to Hope and Healing at Home. Hope you enjoyed this art therapy activity. There's lots more art therapy activities to come. Please let me know if there's a specific emotion or situation that you would like me to cover in a future one, and I'll make sure to do a video on that. Have a good day.